Trains built America's economy.
This train is awesome. This is extreme.
A 5-day race from the Pacific Northwest to upstate New York.
Look out, Idaho. Here we come.
Traveling 2,700 miles.
We'll zap it. Let's see it. Oh, my God.
Carrying 5,000 tons of fresh fruit and vegetables.
I got your potatoes right here, baby.
To keep the shops on the East Coast full of fresh food.
This is awesome.
My name is Matt Baum. Ever since I was a kid, I've been obsessed with trains. My day job? I work on a railroad in Maine. But this is my dream. To ride the biggest, fastest, most awesome trains in history.
This is the Union Pacific Produce Express. This train is brand new, it's high priority, it's high tech, and man, is it cool.
It's almost 1 mile long and has 4 engines pulling it, packing over 17,000 horsepower.
From fruit to vegetables, wine and cheese, if you found it in your supermarket's refrigerator aisle, it probably came on this train right here.
Agriculture is a huge business, and the ability to transport fresh produce has changed the way we eat and live.
Peaches, lemons, limes, apples of all kinds. Every day across the country, Americans buy tons and tons of fresh produce.
Getting all this fresh food across America is the Produce Express. The Pacific Northwest is a major supplier of fruit and vegetables, so that's where this train starts, in Wallula, Washington. Every week, this train travels 2,700 miles, from Wallula, over Oregon's Blue Mountains, through Pocatello, Idaho, and across the windswept plains of the Midwest, before delivering its delicious payload to Schenectady, New York.
They only have 5 days to get the job done. That means if there's any kind of delay to the train, they risk losing the entire load.
A terrible loss of produce, not to mention millions in lost revenue. The journey starts on the farms.
We're at Pleasant Ridge Orchard. This is just one of 34,000 farms in Washington State that have to get their fresh produce to the market fast.
But before it can be put on the train, it has to be harvested, cleaned, and packed.
Look at these. These are beautiful. They're perfectly ripe, beautiful cherries, and you can just eat them right off the tree. Mmm.
Every single cherry is hand-picked.
All right, let's pick some cherries. Oops. I don't think that was right. 10-second rule. Once you get the cherries picked, you only have 2 or 3 hours to get them out of the sun into somewhere where it's cool, or they'll turn into a big pile of mush.
This four-wheeler transports the cherries to an area where they're stacked and loaded onto trucks. Once the trucks are fully loaded, they head to the distribution center to be put onto the train.
This is Rail-X. This is where they build and load the Produce Express. It is freezing in here, man.
Tons of produce, cherries, apples, potatoes, you name it, goes through this state-of-the-art warehouse each week. Inside, it covers 215,000 square feet.
The most amazing thing about this place is they have a 2-mile loop track Come straight through the building. Here's our train right now.
This train can drive inside the warehouse so the boxes stay cold whatever the temperature is outside. This train has just returned from New York. Before it can hit the rails again, all the carriages must be cleaned and inspected.
This is a reefer car or a refrigerator car. Basically what it is a box car, but it's insulated on the inside. Has a refrigeration unit on one end, and it'll keep things cool. They have to make sure every refrigeration unit is working, and that's what Josh is doing up here.
Josh has to check every one of the refrigeration units to make sure these stay cool on the 2,700-mile journey to New York.
How's it going today, Josh?
Oh, not too bad. How are you?
Oh, not bad. So what's going on up here? What are we working on?
A refrigeration carriage works just like a fridge. A liquid called the coolant circulates through a series of pipes. The coolant evaporates inside the pipes, cooling them down. The cold pipes then chill the air inside the carriage. The coolant turns into a liquid again in a condenser, and the process starts again.
Could I have a reefer like this and air condition my house?
You could attract penguins with one of these hooked up to your house.
I bet.
Absolutely.
Icicles hanging from the ceiling.
Yes. We're ready to start it up, make sure this unit is going to cool this boxcar down to the temperature that it needs to be.
For the food to stay fresh, these carriages need to stay cold. This machine has a computer inside that runs a self-diagnostic test to check function.
So it can tell Josh here what's wrong with it, and then he can fix it. Is there anywhere I should be standing, or am I okay right here? Or?
You're okay as long as we keep our fingers and limbs out of the unit.
All right. Looks like a lot of moving parts in there. It's going to be loud. There it goes. You see all the parts moving in there. It's cooling this car down. How's it running? Does it sound like it's okay?
Yeah, this is a really good sounding unit that we got right here.
Yeah. And that's that?
All right, what we did was we initiated a
This unit has passed and is ready to go, but every one of these 55 carriages needs to be tested.
Only 54 more to go there, big fella.
54.
All right, I'm getting
Thanks.
down. Thank you.
To keep the refrigerator carriages working, they need fuel, lots of fuel.
Each one of these cars takes 450 gallons of diesel fuel. Now that's enough to get it from Washington State to New York and back. And that's why these guys want to make sure every tank is topped off before it leaves.
The cost of fuel can vary, but that price always has to be reflected in the cost of fresh food from miles away. The fruit trucks have arrived from the farms. It's time to get everything packed onto the train. The crews move everything into the refrigerated warehouse on these power jacks.
It's like a working man's Segway.
Each one carries 140 kilos. That's 200 watermelons or 5,000 apples. All the boxes are sorted by type and stored in these refrigerated rooms.
I got your potatoes right here, baby.
Then the cardboard dividers and the heavy-duty plastic wrap are used to secure all the boxes. With everything wrapped up, a team of train loaders steps in.
This is the part of the process that's time sensitive. This area of the warehouse isn't refrigerated, so they have to get this product onto those reefer cars fast. When he loads this car, it has to be completely balanced. You don't want it to be top heavy because the car is going to topple over.
They must spread the weight evenly so every carriage is balanced.
This is like a puzzle. It's like a mad game of Jenga. You're playing with thousands of pounds worth of apples and celery and wine, everything else. It's crazy.
The boxes are carefully arranged and packed into specific cars with preset temperatures.
There go the cherries. They're about to start their 5-day, 2,700-mile race to upstate New York. So they have to do this with 55 cars. Time is of the essence to get this train rolling. All right, this is it. This is our last pallet. We're ready to go. Enough of this loading stuff. Let's go ride the train. We're gonna close the car up, put a quality seal on. It's not gonna get opened up till 5 days from now when it gets to New York.
The Produce Express is ready to go. We're heading from Wallula, Washington to Schenectady, New York on the Union Pacific Produce Express.
We've got our 55 cars together. It's over 5,000 tons. Let's get this baby moving.
In a week's time, all the fresh fruit and vegetables on board will be in shops along the East Coast, thanks to these state-of-the-art temperature-controlled refrigeration carriages. Up front in this high-tech train are conductor AG and engineer Ray.
All right, here we go. We're on the Superfruit.
This is a 5-day trip to upstate New York, but getting this train to its destination is not easy. There are serious mountains and roasting temperatures to deal with. When the railroads were built in the 1800s, agriculture was changed forever. Farmers could ship their produce to markets on the other side of the country. But fresh food doesn't stay fresh for long. In 1867, J.B. Sutherland found a solution. He put massive blocks of ice at the end of each carriage. As air circulated around the ice, it cooled, keeping the carriage cool too. Until the 1950s, when mechanical refrigeration replaced ice, this was how perishable food made the trek across land and sea. Leaving Washington and entering Oregon, we're heading into some of the toughest rail routes in America.
I've never been in this area of the country before. We're going through the backwoods of Oregon.
The Blue Mountains of Oregon are ahead, and Ray, the engineer, needs to get this colossal train up and over some serious inclines.
What you have to remember about running a train is that it's just like a giant chain where you've got all kinds of slack action in there. So what's going on up at this end of the chain is not necessarily what's happening back here. And this guy, Ray, has to manage all that running this 5,500-ton freight train.
The engineer needs to understand every move this train makes. It's as if the train is talking. When the train talks, the engineer listens. Every bump, pull, or push tells him exactly what's going on.
And what Ray right here is feeling are the forces of the train. There's two different kind of forces. You get the draft forces and the buff forces. The draft forces is actually the train pulling. It's the pulling forces in the train. So it's like if you go out into your yard with a wagon full of bricks and you have to pull them along, that's the draft. And that's what we're doing right now. We're going uphill. Right now with the draft forces, the knuckles in the train, or the couplers, are actually like this. They're pulled out.
Couplers are the steel mechanisms that hold carriages together.
So what is like the worst case scenario with draft forces when the train's pulling apart?
Well, you can pop knuckles, rip drawbars out, do a lot of damage to the cars.
If the engineer doesn't manage this force properly, he runs the risk of derailment. But draft isn't the only force Ray needs to control.
Buff is the force of the cars pushing against the locomotives. And Ray, when we're coming down the mountain here, you're gonna start feeling that buff.
Yes, we are. Once we top out, we'll definitely feel it.
So when we start going down the hill, knuckles are gonna bunch up like this. Hope you're gonna get us down this hill, okay?
Okay, I'm watching out the side of my glasses here.
Ray knows what he's doing. Experience makes this track less treacherous.
Look at that. You can see this train beside us, this stack train. He's cresting right now. He's actually on both sides of the hill right now. He's topping over the hill right in front of us. You can see it. We're about to do the same thing. Topping over.
Think of topping over like being on a roller coaster ride. When the front end goes over the crest of the incline, it picks up speed, but the back is still being pulled up and over.
So the guy's got to be real careful as what he does gathering his train up. You know, with all them different forces, you know, you make a wrong move, you can tear a train in two.
If we damage the train, it would be very messy.
If Ray doesn't manage the train forces correctly, we're gonna have one big fruit salad back there.
Balancing these two forces, the draft and the buff, is what keeps the train running smoothly.
All right, we're coming over the top, now we're coming down the mountain. And I can feel those buff forces pushing against us.
It's a bit like being hit from behind by a van.
Now, how was it on your first trip alone? You must have memories of that, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty nervous.
You made it okay?
Yeah, made it all right.
White knuckles?
Well, I still get them once in a while, even now.
The skill of being an engineer isn't something you're just gonna learn in a book. You do it by coming out here every day, living it, feeling it, practicing it.
Union Pacific operates 32,000 miles of track and relies on over 12,000 engineers to move its freight around the country. UP's high-tech training facility is in Salt City, Utah. It's where the engineers learn everything they need to know about how to run a train. They practice on simulators.
Each one of these simulators is a replica of most modern American locomotives. Keith here is the instructor, and he's going to show me how to run the Protus Express. How you doing today, Keith?
Great, how are you?
All right, I get to ride in the big seat.
Come on in, sit down.
One day, these trainees will be responsible for lives and merchandise, so UP makes sure the experience is authentic.
Wow, this is pretty real.
We try to make it as real as we can for the engineers.
The controls are exact replicas.
Reverser is forward, neutral, reverse, just like the shifter on your automatic car. This is your throttle. Put it down all the way to 8, and that's giving it all she's got.
Trainees don't feel the forces of the train in the seat as they would on a real train, but draft and buff are displayed on these state-of-the-art monitors.
All right, Keith, let's get this Protus Express moving.
Let's do it, let's go.
All right. So I put it in the first notch, and I want to give it, what, 3 to 5 seconds?
3 to 5 seconds is good. That's what we want. We don't want that jerking motion like you talked about before. People that have towed cars.
It's important to start the train slowly to avoid snapping any couplers. Pushing the throttle to 8 would give the train too much power too quickly and could break the train apart.
So the wrong way to start the train would be what?
Well, if right now the way we're going, Matt, is to go all the way down to 8.
All right, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
We just broke it.
Wow, look at that, all the way up.
That wouldn't be good. So out in the real life, our train would be an emergency right now. We'd have cars uncoupled. We don't want to do that.
I just ripped the train apart. We just made fruit salad.
That's right. Somebody's not going to be happy.
No way to start a train.
All right, this is no joke. You're dealing with a lot of forces here, a lot of responsibility right here for the engineer. Keith, why don't we try to run this train for real? Why don't you show me how to do it?
Here we go.
In the real world, an engineer needs to be prepared for anything. Keith can throw all kinds of challenges to the trainees.
All right, so now we have some fog here in
That's
front of
right.
us.
We've got some fog now, so some of the things you're going to have to watch for are signals.
It's hard to see with this fog, so you really have to know your territory. It looks like there's a crossing right there.
Got an approach up ahead.
Yep. What, is he gonna try to make me stop? Oh, man! He changed the weather again. Whoa, it's snowing. Oh, it's turned, oh, crossing. Man, your hands are full up here.
You can see you got a lot of things going on all at once. You've got to be able to multitask.
And I have track workers up here. Hey, how you doing there, buddy?
Keith can really put people through their paces before they bring the train to a halt.
Come down 1 notch, just 1 notch. Keep stretched out, and that's good. And just set the air brakes. Push that lever over. We'll bring her to a nice, easy stop right now.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
You're ready to be a locomotive engineer now.
Nah, I think I'll stay in the conductor's seat. All right, thanks,
Thank
Keith.
you, appreciate it.
Back on a real train, nothing beats the thrill of riding the Produce Express.
Wow, the scenery is just making me speechless. I don't even know what to say. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm doing it on a train. It's like my boyhood dream come true.
Optimal functioning of each carriage is vital to the viability of the trip.
Outside right now, it's a sweltering 90 degrees, but back there in those reefer cars, the fruit is just chilling because of state-of-the-art technology.
Inside every carriage are 32 sensors that calculate the car's exact location, internal temperatures, and fuel level.
There are satellites in orbit above us that are tracking every move that this train is making. Not only can RailX, Union Pacific, and other clients track every movement of these cars behind us on a laptop, they also will get an email or a text message anytime something goes wrong with one of the cars.
If the fuel runs low or the temperature changes, the crew are alerted instantly. But some things don't need a satellite to tell you they are not working. Damaged wheels.
These cars are carrying thousands of dollars of perishable items. So if something goes wrong anywhere along the line, they bring these carmen in to fix it fast.
This train clocks up over 21,000 miles a month. Keeping its wheels in shape is a never-ending job. Bill and Joe have to replace a wheel that's seen its last revolution.
This is the shellin', and it actually looks like an eggshell if you look at it.
When a train brakes and the wheels lock, the part of the wheel that's touching the rail gets very hot. It's just like the rubber on your bicycle tire when it skids. As the wheel cools and contracts, the stress causes the metal to crack and flake away. This type of metal fatigue is called shelling.
So what happens is, if guys like Joe and Bill here don't come in and fix it, this whole wheel will turn into this shellin'. Eventually, the wheel's gonna almost break apart, the car can derail. That's not good.
This wheel's got to go, but changing a train wheel isn't as easy as putting a spare tire on a bike. Each carriage has 8 wheels and weighs 30 tons.
You're telling me there's jacks on this truck that are actually gonna lift this, what do you say, 30-ton rail car?
Absolutely.
All right, let's see how this works.
Okay.
First, they secure the train by wedging the wheels.
That's gonna keep it from rolling in either direction.
They use wooden blocks to stabilize the jack while they're lifting the carriage.
They're gonna put the wood blocks down, and they're gonna put the jacks right here. Look, it's jack, and pull here. So there's your big hit. Can I give you a hand with that?
Yeah, you want to do it?
Sure, I'll do it. I wanna see how heavy this thing is. Ah, it's pretty heavy. Not too bad, all right. And I can see that
When you lift a train this heavy, you need to be on stable ground, or a 30-ton boxcar might come crashing down.
All right, it looks like we're about ready to jack. Come over here, I'll show you what we're working with. These are the hydraulic jacks. One of these jacks can lift 70,000 pounds.
You want to try it?
Yeah, Bill, let me
right.
have a crack at this. Oh yeah, you can
feel that. That's heavy. Wow, that's close. Yeah, so that's perfect. It's pretty much ready to go right now. They're gonna hook hydraulic lines from the truck right to here, and then that's how you're gonna power this 70,000-pound jack. Yep. Jack. I mean, Joe. This car is sitting on a hill right now, so when they jack it up, that wheel is just gonna roll right out. The only problem is, when they get the new wheel, they're gonna have to push it back uphill, and that's why they bring in the unskilled laborer right here.
Hooked up, they're ready to lift.
Wow! Look at that, that is cool. The thing is just coming out on its own. Just as simple as that, it rolls out. And you can really get a look at that wheel and what the problem was when it's coming by us here. That's all shelled wheel right there. It's gonna save a big, huge derailment in the long run.
Next, the changing of the wheel.
So here comes the new wheel. Got the old wheel out, and bringing the new wheel in. There it is, the new wheel's in. Just like a glove, this car's ready to go.
We left Washington 10 hours ago. As we approach Idaho, it's time for a snack.
What, are you writing down Mike's sandwich order? Yeah. What'd you order, Mike?
You ordered a Z sandwich.
Small lunch. On the railroad, you eat on the fly. There's no stopping for lunch.
The first stop is at Pocatello, Idaho. When the railway was established here in the 1920s, the hundreds of trains that came through every month changed the way we eat forever. This is the Union Pacific's Produce Express.
This reefer train is awesome. This is extreme.
Carrying 5,000 tons of fresh fruit and vegetables on this super cool train.
We're heading through Idaho right now, about to go right over the American Falls Dam and into Pocatello.
It stops in Pocatello to refuel, but this place isn't a run-of-the-mill pit stop. In 1906, the Union and Southern Pacific Railroads joined forces to create the Pacific Fruit Express. Their goal was to move massive quantities of fresh fruit and vegetables from coast to coast. With the high demand for perishable items, the railroads set up stations along the route to service their trains. One of the biggest was here at Pocatello Yard.
Once upon a time, this place would have been humming with activity with people working on reefer cars, but now it's just a ghost town.
In its heyday, this was a one-stop shop where employees did everything from building refrigeration motors to painting the trains their signature yellow. By the 1960s, the cars had started to show their age. And as the interstate highway system began to link cities across America, farmers turned to trucks to transport their produce, and the railways declined.
When these shops finally closed down, it was the end of an era for Union Pacific Railroad. I have a lot of respect for the history of what goes on here at this railroad and the future of what's about to happen with this railroad, because I think this business is about to explode.
In fact, it already has.
All the advances in refrigerator car technology are helping UP gain back the refrigeration transportation market from trucks, and that is a great help to the environment.
In October 2006, Union Pacific and Rail-X launched the Produce Express, a new high-tech, energy-efficient train pulling state-of-the-art refrigerated cars. Just one of the train's 55 cars can carry up to 4 truckloads of produce. That's good news for the environment, especially since trains were once responsible for some of the worst emissions imaginable. Until the early 20th century, train engines were powered by steam. The steam was made by burning coal to boil water, and the coal was burned in the firebox. To run efficiently, the firebox had to be cleaned out every month. At the Steamtown Museum in Pennsylvania, we can see how difficult this dirty job was.
All right, Bruce, tell me what we're looking at here.
Well, inside the firebox where we burn the coal, we have to remove these fire bricks that are on the top up here.
So they're kind of like the bricks you'd use in your fireplace to reflect the heat back into your room.
Exactly. What they do is they radiate the heat up to the fire and keep more heat in the firebox before it goes out through the tubes.
Okay, so the first thing to do is go in there and take the bricks out.
That's right.
And you're going to do that?
No, Matt, that's your job.
I was afraid of that. All right, I'm in. It's a nice breeze in here. I'm gonna put this mask on to keep any dust from getting in my nose or my mouth. Bruce, I am your father. Back in the day, workers wouldn't have had these masks. They would have used wet rags, correct, Bruce?
That's right, Matt.
Even empty, there's still plenty of ash.
Start from the top.
Start from the top and just give them a little bump up, and they'll come right out.
Here comes the brick.
These bricks help the fire reach its critical temperature, around 1,000 degrees.
And another.
The bricks need to come out to clean the firebox thoroughly.
Oh, these bricks, they weigh about 15 pounds, which really isn't that heavy. But after you've done about 40 of them, it starts to weigh on you a little bit.
With the last brick out, you can see how the firebox works.
The metal between the holes is hollow. When the superheated air goes in there, it heats up the air, creates steam that powers the engine. That was fun, Bruce. Is that it, or is there other stuff we have to do?
Well, the next step involves some wet gear and such, and hoses and water, and
Hoses and water, that sounds good.
especially with some ash thrown in.
All right, let's get to it.
With the bricks out of the way, the next step is to inspect the inside for any defects, cracks, or leaks.
I feel like I'm ready to go lobster fishing.
To see clearly, the firebox needs to be washed out with a high-powered water hose.
All right, we're just about done here. Just gotta get out. I got a whole new respect for what these guys do on these steam locomotives. This is hard work.
Back in Idaho, the train crew have checked that all the produce is still cold.
We're at Pacific Recycling, and this is where reefer cars come to die.
The guys here are in charge of taking apart and recycling old Food Express rolling stock.
These guys recycle everything. Now, these are part of the old refrigeration unit. So what they do is they take them out of the car, and then they drain them of any harmful fluids, and then they're ready to be recycled. This is an old Union Pacific Fruit Express reefer car. Now, the Union Pacific couldn't use this anymore because it's circa 1966. It's been on the rails a long time. They brought it here to be ripped up, and they're gonna recycle it for scrap. And when I say ripped up, I mean ripped up.
Once the carriages have been stripped, it's time to rip them apart.
This is Todd. He's the guy that rips these cars apart. How's it going today?
Good, man.
All right, what's this machine all about? What do we have here?
It's a 944C. It's the ripper.
It's a beast.
Pretty much, yeah. What it does is it rips the metal through that and then cuts it.
Wow.
With over 5,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, this mega machine can chop through pipes, bricks, and even train carriages.
Hey, you want to show me how you do this?
Betcha.
And I'll tell you what, I'm going to stay way back.
Sounds
I'm going
good.
to let you get busy.
Okay.
Oh my God! Look at that thing!
Todd can dismantle several boxcars in a morning.
If this car's a rockin', don't come knocking. Oh, crunch! Todd does not like boxcars. Man, that was crazy.
Is that fun?
That was awesome, man.
Fun for me.
You seriously have a problem with boxcars, I can tell. They cut the boxcars down to this little size right here. They're gonna ship it out, they're gonna melt it down and reuse it.
So all this steel will not go to waste. The Produce Express reaches Nebraska. We've got 1,500 miles to go before Schenectady, New York. To get there, we'll be using some of the most high-tech rails in America. The Union Pacific's Produce Express, 55 individually refrigerated cars packed full of 5,000 tons of fresh fruit and vegetables.
If anything happens to this produce, UP is gonna have a bunch of sour grapes on their hands.
We're through Nebraska and Iowa and on the way to upstate New York.
This train is running hot and it's running smooth, and it's all because they're running on top-notch rails. Here on the railroad, it's the rail gangs that keep the tracks pristine, and trains like the Produce Express running smooth and on time.
One of their most important jobs is replacing worn-out rails. The first railways used jointed rails, meaning they were connected by bolts. The problem with jointed rails is that trains running at low speeds can start to shake violently when they go over the joints, in the way an overloaded washing machine can start to shake. This is called harmonic rock, and it can cause derailments. Here they're replacing jointed track with welded rail to ensure a smooth ride. Rick and his rail gang are doing what's called electric flash spot welding.
Okay, so you're actually gonna electrocute this rail?
In a manner
Right
of
here?
speaking, yes.
This rail comes in pieces 1/4 of a mile long. Once they are lined up, a high-amp electrical current superheats the rail and fuses the pieces together seamlessly.
So with this process, there's no kind of metal you're putting here. You're just gonna fuse this rail together.
That's correct.
Okay.
This does all the work.
Okay.
Basically, we just assist this.
All right.
This does all the work.
And it's gonna fuse this rail together.
It's gonna fuse it together.
It's gonna give you a good smooth rail.
Yep.
And it's gonna make a conductor like me just super happy.
Exactly.
Because riding on that stuff is like riding on a super highway.
There you go.
Right on, man.
There you go.
Well, zap it. Let's see it.
Once everything's in place, they lower this machine, hit the button, and fuse the rails.
These guys are about to zap that rail with 5,300 volts of electricity, man. Instead of putting a weld rod in there between the two rails and melting it, with this 5,300 volts, they're just fusing the rails together just like that. It's like they're popping popcorn in there or something. They're gonna use a shear. It's a big metal piece that comes across the rail. And it's gonna actually shear off all the slag that's left over from this weld. It's like using a Play-Doh knife. Oh, look at that. Oh, man, unreal. And I can feel the heat. I can feel the heat from that standing here. Man, that's hot. It's like molten lava. Look at, and then look how smooth that is. Now he's grinding it, and he's gonna smooth it out, and that is one beautiful piece of rail, man.
This new track is ready, and the Produce Express will be passing through here soon.
We're rolling through Chicago. We're only 24 hours from Schenectady.
The GPS tells us that the train back there is holding the temperature, but we're not gonna know for sure until we can get some of those cherries out when we get to New York and try them for ourselves.
Approaching its final destination is the Union Pacific Produce Express. Over 1 mile long, loaded with 5,000 tons of fresh fruit and vegetables, delivering cherries from the Northwest to the East Coast of America.
All right, we finally made it. After 2,700 miles, we're at the RailX facility in Schenectady, New York. Fruit's back there chilling. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the first 14 cars off the head end of the train, set them in the building, and unload them.
Just as when the train was loaded, here it enters the refrigerated building to be unloaded.
This car hasn't been opened for 5 days since it left Washington State. I want to see how it did. So, Tom, let's open this up. I'm trying to dig out my cherries. I know they're in here somewhere. It's like Christmas or something. All right, one right there. Tastes like it's just off the tree.
Once all the fresh produce is off the train, it's sorted, inspected, repackaged, then loaded onto trucks to be delivered to shops on the East Coast.
That orange is looking pretty darn good. So there you have it. All the cherries and apples and anything else you can refrigerate are on their way to the store. And it's all thanks to the hardworking men and women along this line.